guys, next up we're going to talk about the deadlift. One of my top 3 favorite exercises of all time. Actually, it's probably my favorite exercise of all time. Great full body exercise, it's very functional. How many times do you lift something up off the ground in everyday normal life, outside of a gym or outside of a training facility? Many times, right? So it's good to know how you should use your body to lift heavy things up without getting hurt. So you can actually get stronger and not get hurt. Makes sense, right? So the deadlift, we're going to go over the deadlift in general, and then we're going to break it down, how many different ways you can do the deadlift. And if in your program you don't see a certain specific deadlift, if it just says deadlift, that means you have a choice to do whatever deadlift is your favorite. But if I specify KB, kettlebell deadlift, or if I specify RDL, which means Romanian deadlift, or if I specify sumo deadlift, that means I'm just kind of giving you more of a direction on which deadlift you should choose. But if it's just a blanketed deadlift, you decide what you want to do. Okay, I'm just going to go over some functional movements that you need to be paying attention to protect your spine. That's going to be helpful in the deadlift. You can get stronger and not get hurt. Right? So it's a great exercise, but it can also be very dangerous with improper form. A few things you should be paying attention to, anatomy-wise. Okay, the deadlift is we call it a hinge movement. If you think about a door hinge, it opens and closes, right? It's like a swivel, right? So that's how these muscles, that's how this hip joint works. Folds over, and then it extends, right? So here and here. That's number one. When you're bending down to pick something up, you want to use your legs. You want to push your hips back. Number 2, you don't want to roll your shoulders to pick it up. Okay, you want to use a flat back, or as we call us nerdy trainers call it a neutral spine. What that means is your natural neutral spine, right? Your vertebrae are stacked on each other for a reason. You didn't create that. Naturally, your vertebrae are stacked a certain way to protect your spine as we as humans move around and do our daily life, right? So if you think about neutral spine, what does that mean? I'm just going to hold this PVC here so you guys can see. I don't know which way is best, but maybe this is. So if I was lying straight on my back and I wanted a neutral spine, I would look for 3 points of contact with this PVC, starting at my head. So my head pulled back, touching the PVC, the middle of my back, touching the PVC, and then my lower back, also known as my lumbar spine. So those 3 points of contact should be touching the PVC in order to say it's a neutral spine, right? So take it one step further and bring that navel in, bring your belly button in, flatten that lower back. And now you have a neutral or flat back. So if we stack those 2 things up, right, we're hinging, we're folding over, and we keep that neutral spine. This is the motion that we need to be lifting things up off the ground in order to make the deadlift effective, but also protective of our spine. Okay, take this PVC away, flat back, hip hinge, right? Regardless of what deadlift you are doing that day. For instance, I'm just going to use this barbell. And I'm going to start off with a RDL, which is Romanian deadlift. So, a Romanian deadlift means your hips are going to be a little bit higher up. So it's a little less knee bend, more hips. So, now if I'm holding a barbell, just using this as an example, in order to get that back flat, in order to keep my back flat when I'm folding over, rotate shoulders back, right? So if you're grabbing a barbell, just think about ripping that barbell apart, nice proud chest, activating those upper back muscles and keeping that barbell close to your body. Now, if you don't keep it close to your body and it's further out away from your body, it's going to put a lot of stress on your lower back. It's also, chances are, it's going to pull those shoulders forward, and that takes us out of what we just talked about, neutral spine, right? So it's important to keep those upper back muscles engaged or contracted, or pulled back, right? So you're using a barbell, you want to line up your feet, obviously in the center of the bar, number one. Natural stance apart, whatever your natural stance is, whether it be hip width or shoulder width, whatever it is natural for you. Now, folding over at your waist, grabbing onto the barbell in the center, rotating my shoulders back, I'm standing up. Okay? Now, for RDL, Romanian deadlift, keeping those shoulders back, neutral spine, folding over at the waist. And once I get to the middle of my shin, I'm going to stand back up. That's a Romanian deadlift. You're never really taking tension off of the hamstrings and lower back. Also upper back, right? So hips are back, up. Keeping that bar close to my body. You only want to go as low as your form will allow. That would be a Romanian deadlift. More tension on the hamstrings. Now, a conventional deadlift, you're coming all the way down to the ground. Dropping those hips a little bit. Continuing to roll your shoulders back. Upper back's engaged. Keeping the neutral spine. And now I'm coming up from this position. All the way back down. Stopping. Pressing up. Pressing away from the floor and standing up. Still keeping the shoulders back. That would be a conventional deadlift. So that's Romanian deadlift and conventional deadlift. Still, both apply neutral spine or flat back and hip hinge. Now, take it one step further, we can do sumo deadlift. If you just imagine a sumo wrestler, your feet are going to be a little bit wider, still keeping your hips in line with your knees, in line with your ankles, and you're still following the same rules. Gripping the bar, rotating shoulders back, keeping a nice flat back, and I'm hinging up, pressing my feet into the floor as I pull up. Side view. Same rules apply, no matter what kind of deadlift you're doing. Okay, that's for the barbell. You can use 2 dumbbells, whatever equipment you have access to or available to you. Here we have everything, the body, but if you're doing a Romanian deadlift, rotate the shoulders back, folding over at the waist. Once you get to the middle of your shin, you're going to stand back up. A regular conventional deadlift really doesn't, you don't need the dumbbells for a conventional deadlift, but if you were to do it, you're sitting down a little bit further into that deadlift position, standing up. Okay, 2 dumbbells, 1 kettlebell, 2 kettlebells. Romanian deadlift with 1 kettlebell, same rules apply. Probably gonna have to take a little bit wider of a stance. Maybe not quite as wide as a sumo grip or a sumo stance, but a little bit wider. Continue to roll the shoulders back. Good strong upper back, right? Flat back, and then fold over at your waist. Once you get to the middle of your shin, you're standing back up. That's for the Romanian deadlift. That's deadlift 101. Depending on what you have on your program, if it doesn't specify, do the deadlift of your choice, but just practice those few things and work on mastering them because you can continue to get stronger. If not, if you practice bad habits, who knows what that can bring you, right? So that's the deadlift. Flat back, hinge at the waist, keep your abs nice and tight, and believe in yourself. Trust the process, practice patience.